We're back, full-time, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, 365 days a year.
You moron. Could you have picked a worse time? Haven't you seen the news?
Huh? What news? Besides me returning.
Niantic made an update to remote raid passes that has the community in an uproar.
Oh, really? Maybe I should look into that first. Hey everyone, good to be here, but also not under the context of what I'm actually going to be talking about today. It's probably no news to any of you that there is a new update in Pokemon Go with the remote raid passes where they're going to be making some rebalance changes to this feature in the game. And as we know, they added the remote raid pass feature during the pandemic, which was one way to help people stay together in their communities during the pandemic and all that jazz, right? This was never meant to be a permanent feature in the game, but regardless of if it was meant to be a permanent feature or not, like the distance change for the spinning the stops, there are things that can be implemented in this game that just end up being a better quality of life for community and the game overall. And what they're doing is they're going to be pretty much limiting the amount of raids you can do daily, while on top of it increasing the price point of what these remote raid passes will cost. I go on Twitter and it's pretty much all I'm seeing today, especially because in about 2 days they're going to be adding this specific update to Pokemon Go. I mean, there's just one that's been going around, this post. A lot of content creators and such are posting this. It's pretty much saying, "Dear Niantic, we are writing to you on behalf of your customer, the Pokemon Go community. We want to start off by letting you know that we love Pokemon Go, not just Go, but the Pokemon franchise in general. We are and always will be passionate, loyal, and vocal about our thoughts and concerns. We want Pokemon Go to succeed, and we want to be able to play this game, the game we love, for years to come. Unfortunately, as a whole, we feel unheard." You know, the thing is, I agree, you know, there's a trend with Pokemon Go and Niantic of kind of making really weird decisions on their end. I genuinely have kind of checked out on Pokemon Go because of things like this in the past. I mean, I've seen this happen how many times with this company, where they just drop the ball with updates, they mess up raid updates, they pretty much can't get a lot of things right to this day. And you know, I understand the whole sentiment about not feeling heard by the community, because even right now, while all this backlash is occurring, they're still going on with their normal social media posts. And every single post is being bombarded with, you know, tweets and such talking about this raid pass update. Actually, there was one situation where they were actually tweeting about Transgender Day of Visibility, and apparently, like, all the tweets to that also were just about the raid pass thing. I mean, what do you expect when they're essentially just ignoring everything that's going on? I know I'm kind of like jumbling around here. I generally did not even know how to go about talking about this. To be honest, there's a past me that would have been up on the forefront of this and really trying to get Niantic to hear us out and such, and really criticize the company for what they're currently doing. But I just got so tired of the same thing with Niantic. I mean, Go Battle League was one thing where I put a lot of time into that, and I felt like the game never really was truly working properly, or the way the game was functioning with the meta and like how they have XL candy and such. Like, there's way too much for me to wrap my brain around. I might, in fact, implode if I was still deeply invested in this at this point. I would be extremely upset about what's going on. It's just really difficult to try to figure out how to go about this conversation in general, because I see, you know, I feel so mixed about it, you know, because I want, on one end, I want to say, what did you expect to happen? This was bound to happen with Niantic. And I mean, I've done so many videos and criticisms on Niantic in the past, just talking about like, what is a quit moment in Pokemon Go? Do people at Niantic actually play Pokemon Go, etc.? Do they even understand the Pokemon franchise? There's so many levels of, I've spent so much time and energy on my streams just kind of getting mentally unhinged based on my investment and how much I cared about this game at one point. Nowadays, I'm surface level care about this. I barely play. I mainly look at it as a way to collect more shiny Pokemon for my overall collection of Pokemon in Pokemon Home. Obviously, this isn't majority of the player base, but there are, you know, some reports of Pokemon Go dev receiving death threats following this raid pass update. And granted, I'm not trying to use this as like, this is definitely a small minority of the community, but the fact that like this dev is receiving any sort of like death threats over this change is actually insane to me. I mean, it's a video game. Like, let's not forget that this, at the end of the day, is a video game. And I think it's important to acknowledge that, like, you know, it's not normal to like be this connected to something that you're going to like threaten someone's livelihood. Overall, I feel like there's like a really weird element to this whole situation. I read some of these tweets on Twitter and it feels like if someone's like, I'm okay with this change, automatically everyone's like, look at this entitlement from this person. You don't have a disability, you're entitled. But it's like the irony of you sitting there and blatantly like judging someone based on words on the internet. Like, you don't know really anything about these people. You don't know if they have a disability, but you pretty much have created this narrative that if people do not agree with you on this like fight, then you're essentially shilling for Niantic. You're entitled. You must have a great Pokemon Go community where you raid with all the time. It's so complicated because I understand why people are upset. I mean, if I was spending this much money on a game that just was subpar and isn't even really caring about what my like habits or lifestyle is like because of this game, yeah, I'd be enraged too. It's so complicated. I feel like people are gonna be mad at me for saying this type of stuff because this is such a complicated situation. You know, like for example, I saw tweets where people were saying like, you know, I typically raid 100 times a week and now this is gonna cut that down tremendously. So thank you for that, Niantic. And for me, that's crazy to look at. Like, obviously there's people who can cheat the system to some degree. Like, they're going to buy Turkish currency to get more value out of their Pokemon Go account with a VPN. I don't know. There's like a lot of like little loopholes where people can like get a more value for their bang for their buck in the shop or whatever. But to be honest, it's like kind of insane to like look at a lot of these conversations and it's like these people are just openly talking about how much money they spend on the game weekly and like how upset they are that they can't continue to do this. And it's like there's a part of me that feels like Niantic is trying to combat this like whale aspect of the game. It's so confusing because, you know, it doesn't really make sense to me that a company would want to stop making profit off of these people because, let's be real, the small percentage of the community that is funding this entire game are whales, and they're the ones who are out there dropping hundreds of dollars every month on the game to like do the content. And this is more of like a slap in the face of these players more than any free-to-play player or whatever. And, you know, there's a lot of like little nuanced conversations people are having around this discussion, which I totally agree with for the most part. I mean, yes, of course, this will affect people with disabilities. Yes, this will affect rural communities. I think the game is better not being this extremely gimmicky game. I wish there was trades over the internet, like we could trade our lucky trades over via the internet. I wish we could do more like that. Like personally, I love the remote raid pass feature. I think that shouldn't be changed at all. Like they claim this for rebalancing issues, which I could make the devil's advocate argument here that like, yes, that makes more sense that like they want to stop whales from grinding on this level and they want to balance it out a little bit more for people that can't sit here and spend that much money. But the reality is it doesn't actually fix that problem either. There's no way they're going to be able to retroactively go back and fix the state of Pokemon Go at this point. There's no way they can do it. It's just how it is. I mean, they could try their best, but the reality is people are going to get mad regardless of what they try to do. If they try to make it more accessible for newer players, it's going to make older players that have invested all this time and money upset, which may be the case what's happening here. But arguably, I guess like the way I could like try to frame this without being like devil's advocate is that this is just generally doesn't make any sense. Like this update, like this doesn't necessarily benefit anyone. Like you'd think Niantic gets more money out of this. They kind of do, maybe to a degree, because I'm sure whales will still pay the money. But it's like, I honestly can't see how they benefit 100% from this, because people are saying, you know, the data thing. I guess you could look at it like this. The data must be so valuable for Niantic that they're willing to just ignore the player base entirely and move forward with this update. There's a way you can, you know, go in and actually stop Niantic from collecting your data. At least I don't know how much this officially works, but there is a way to go through settings and, you know, privacy for your data in the app. I mean, there's so many things here that like, I don't know if like it's a speculation, if people actually know this or what, but it's so confusing to me. Like, what do we do from here? Like, can we actually change anything? I love a lot of the people that are in this community. It's the main thing that is good about Pokemon Go at this point, is the community. Not to mention all the online communities, this will hurt. My heart goes out to all the smaller creators that are going to lose their niche content creation due to this update as well. Like, they already clarified a few days ago that they are standing by the decision, and they're not really going to change anything. It's supposed to be like a big meaningful change. So the idea that they're saying here why they are doubling down with this update is because they want to promote in-game, like in-person events and raids and such. But the reality of it is, if it hasn't happened at this point in the game, it's not going to happen. I mean, I live in Los Angeles, and I remember the days when I would go out and there'd be people raiding all the time walking around the city. That's not today. Like, that's not how the game is anymore. Even living in a big city like LA, I could not rely on just walking around in person to do raids. I don't even really raid anymore because of the struggle at times to get people together. Even remote raiding at times isn't like perfect, but like it's definitely the better option is to keep remote raiding as a viable option for players in game. Personally, the whole gimmicks in Pokemon Go have worn off. Elements of it are super cool and interesting, but the reality is, even when you play the game outside, because of the nature of how the game is played, you're not actually enjoying your time outside. You're not out there taking in the scenery and such. Like, maybe occasionally, but then you're not even playing the game correct to most hardcore players. Like, you gotta be sitting there just catching. There's too much to do at a time. Like, it's like sensory overload when you're doing events in this game. It's like, I want to stand by all the players and I want to see them, like the people that are still playing this game actively, I want them to get the best out of this game. Regardless of how I feel about Niantic as a company, I don't think that changes the fact that a lot of people are upset and they definitely deserve better from this company. I would love to see Niantic potentially do better in the future. I guess I'll look at some tweets here just to kind of like give you an idea like what people are saying on Twitter and such. Remember the early days of raiding, people are over the stage are long gone. Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much what I was saying. I'm tired, but it needs to be said. Both sides want this game to work and be successful. We just want to be heard. Yeah, 100%. Essentially, most people are just kind of saying the same thing. Whales rise. Understandably, we're not all the typical Singaporean grandmothers that play the game, but that's the beautiful thing. We all play the game. Yeah, exactly. It should be a game that just stops playing upon gimmicks and actually provides good like content. I'm gonna click on this tweet from Niantic right now that they just put out, and I bet you any money it's gonna have a bunch of tweets about the Raid Pass update. Not the tweet we wanted to see. Hear us, Niantic. Hear us, Niantic. Hear us, Niantic stuff. Hear us, Niantic. Gonna hide the replies again, or you're gonna face the concerns? Wow, this is actually crazy. See, this has nothing to do with Pokemon Go, and they're just so upset about this. But to be fair, like, we're in a situation where almost like they'd be better off not putting out any tweets, or at least addressing. Like, if they're not going to address what's going on, they might as well just say nothing. I would love to hear your feedback if this video reaches for you or whatever, if you end up watching it to this point. Is there a future for Pokemon Go? Also, if you are a Sassifrass fan, I have been posting daily to my daily Sassifrass YouTube channel. Definitely consider subscribing and following me over there, because yeah, I will be way more active. I'm hoping by the time I post this video that there's a response from Niantic and they actually make some like changes. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see if I end up posting this video or not. The Sass Squad's getting stronger each and every day. Good morning, evening, afternoon, every tuning in. I'll catch you in the next one.